Sketch 22, Making Sense of Data. Statistics becomes a science.
The word statistics dates back to around 1749, but however, it has not been talked about much until the 18th century. In the 18th century, the term statistics designated the systematic collection of demographic and economic data by states. In the beginning, it was only restricted to information about states. However, later it became about all types of collected information. During the first part of the 18th century, statistics and probability developed together. Probability explores what can be said about an unknown sample of a known collection. Statistics explores what can be said about an unknown collection by investigating a small sample. We use it to refer to data, and it refers to the science that produces and analyzes data. The word technically means the practice or science of collecting and analyzing numerical data in large quantities, especially for the purpose of inferring proportions as a whole from those in a representative sample. Statistical activities include probabilities and probability theory. The use of statistics is used to impact sciences, which means designing experiments. However, it wasn't until the 20th century that statistics really began to evolve. Mathematician John Graunt from London in 1662 was a shopkeeper who published a pamphlet called Natural and Political Observations Made Upon the Bills of Mortality. In that pamphlet, he kept a record of weekly and yearly burial records of London. He summarized the records as numerical tables, made observations about the data, and found that more males were born than females, and women lived longer than the men. As time went on, he began to estimate the number of deaths. His results, which he called the London Life Table, was the start of database estimation of life expectancy. The issue he had was he had no way of knowing if his data was accurate or accidental variations. Statistics is used on a daily basis by individuals through weather forecasts, medical studies, political campaigns, insurance, consumer goods, and stock markets.
Now for the mathematicians involved in the development of statistics.
Jacob Bernoulli was born in Switzerland in 1655 and lived until 1705. He published his first comprehensive book on statistics called Ars Projectini in 1713. Three of his first four books explain permutations, combinations, and probabilities of popular gambling games, while his fourth part proposed that these statistics had much more serious applications such as politics, economics, and morality. He also came up with the law of large numbers. This law stated that the more pieces of data that were collected, the more accurate the statistics based on these numbers would be. Abraham de Moor was a Frenchman who was born in 1667 and lived until 1754. He was the first man to describe the normal curve, which he used to approximate binomial distributions, and it also improved Bernoulli's estimation on how many observations were required for accurate conclusions. He couldn't always provide satisfying answers to fundamental questions in real-world situations, such as how I can assure the population of people I am using are accurately reflecting the phenomena that I am studying. Pierre-Simon Laplace was also a Frenchman who lived in 1749 and died in 1872, wrote The Analytical Theory of Probability. This book published a large amount of work on probability theory and how it was applied to practical questions, and the book was highly mathematical. So then he wrote a philosophical essay on probabilities, which attempted to explain these works in less sophisticated terms. Next came Adrien Marie Legendre, who was also a Frenchman, who lived from 1752 to 1833. His work rivaled Laplace and made important contributions in many areas, such as number theory and geometry. He was a member of the 1795 French Commission that measured the meridian arc and defined the basic unit of length for the metric system. He came up with the method of least squares, which was meant to extract reliable information from data. Lambert Quetelet from Belgium lived from 1796 to 1874. He published a book on social physics. This book attempted to apply the laws of probability to the study of human characteristics. Based this data on what he felt was the average man, and he drew criticism for overextending mathematics to attempt to apply it to human beings. Next came Sir Francis Galton in England in the 1860s. He was the first cousin to Charles Darwin and part of the eugenics movement and hoped to improve the human race through selective breeding. He developed regression and correlation since it's impossible to control all the factors that affect hereditary data. Next came Francis Edgeworth from Ireland, who lived in the 1890s, who worked to refine and extend Galton's work. Next was Karl Pearson, who lived in London in the 1890s as well. He was a teacher to G. Yundy Ewell at the University College in London. These two worked alongside each other to expand Galton's work. Ewell molded Pearson and Galton's into a methodology of regression analysis, which paved the way for use of statistics in biological and social sciences in the 20th century. Next came R.A. Fisher, who was most important statistician of the early 20th century. He made his statistics a powerful tool that was based on solid mathematical principles. He published the book Statistical Methods for Research Workers in 1925, which became a landmark book for generations of scientists. 10 years later, he wrote The Design of Experiments, which emphasized the importance of good experiment designs in order to obtain good data. He then realized that statistical experiments are based on real events and even tested whether or not a difference in taste could be observed if he switched the order in which tea and milk were mixed. His work established the statistical tools that every scientist needs to have in his toolbox. Finally, there's John Turkey, who was a brilliant man who contributed to pure mathematics, applied mathematics, the science of computation, and statistics. He invented what's called exploratory data analysis, which was a collection of methods for dealing with data.
Now we have a couple questions for you guys. What were your initial thoughts on statistics, and how do you use statistics in your day-to-day life?